This is a podcast by WellHouse Church, where we talk about what it's like to be a Christian Monday through Saturday, to live as a person of faith in a culture against faith.
So let's talk about bipolar disorder.
Let's do it.
But first, this is our first day of recording in a while.
Yep.
So, how have you been? What's been going on?
I've been good. We took some time off recording because I went on sabbatical.
Yeah.
I was gone for 6 days to North Carolina. Just trying to heal and regroup and refresh and renew. It was good.
Yeah.
I needed it. I spent a lot of time in the mountains. The weather was beautiful. It was amazing. So the struggle now is when you come back from a trip like that, how do you not fall back into the old habits that got you in the place of struggle in the beginning?
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to reevaluate my life a little bit. I'm trying to really think through the things I do and I agree to, and why I'm agreeing to them and doing them. Trying to really find myself in a place of rest and renewal. And so I've been pretty good. I've been a little stressed at times, but I've been overall good.
Good.
How have you?
So I didn't go on sabbatical.
You didn't? No.
So I still had things to do and work but I will say, as much as I love podcasting, it was nice to take a break.
Yeah. That's what I like. I always think is like, we put out a ton of content.
So
and
much content.
there's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes in order to put out this much content. And like, don't hear me. I love what we do.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm not complaining at all. Like, I absolutely love what we do. Mm-hmm. But even if you love what you do, sometimes you still need a break.
Yeah, for sure. And so the time that we weren't recording, I spent with like other people and like hanging out with friends. And so that was good and healing and all that stuff.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's not really much else to say except just kind of chilled. Not much stress, really. Even something that I was stressing out about, that you and I had talked about off camera before about my job.
Yeah.
Not worried about it.
Awesome.
Yeah. The Lord's just giving me a peace that he's going to work it out the way he sees fit.
Yeah.
And
love it.
That's sometimes the best place that we can be.
I'm just convinced that is what it means to have childlike faith.
Yeah.
Like you're just fully dependent and like, that God's going to protect you, and that's what life is.
He's going to work it out the way he wants to work it out. And you know what? You can fight it, but like, it's still going to happen.
Well, and so much of stress and anxiety comes from fear.
Yep.
Fear of lack of safety, fear of lack of comfort.
Control.
Yeah, control. And so what does a child do? A child says like, hey, all of my being is dependent upon you.
Yep. Like
my safety, my provision, everything is dependent upon you. That is childlike faith.
Absolutely it is. And sometimes it is I said sometimes, all the time, that is incredibly important to remember.
Yep. 100%.
Where is it? There it is. So let's get into it.
Let's do it.
First of all, so as according to the title, we are talking about bipolar disorder.
Yes.
This is not a disclaimer. This is a debunking. A lot of times, people, when they hear the word bipolar disorder or the term, they think what used to be called multiple personality disorder.
Like schizophrenia?
No. Sometimes they're coupled, but schizophrenia does not have to be multiple personalities.
Okay, got you.
But multiple personality disorder in the DSM-5, was it the DSM-4 or 5? It was one of the two, was renamed dissociative identity disorder.
Okay. DID.
DID. Not the same thing. DID and bipolar disorder, very different things. Bipolar disorder, while it may seem like they're two different personalities, they are two sides of the same personality. So, in a way, right? Like, that's how I like to explain it to people. Because it is a manic depressive disorder. And so that sounds kind of...
So it's like you've got your situational healthy person and your depressed person. They are both the same person, but manifesting themselves through these two veins, kind of like?
Sort of.
Okay.
Yeah. And so manic depressive disorder does kind of sound oxymoronic, because how can you be manic and also depressive?
Right.
Right. But what it is a fight between depressive states and manic states. Right. There is times where you do exhibit more depression, right? Whereas there's other times where you exhibit more like mania.
Yeah.
Which mania, you've heard the term like, oh, they're a maniac.
Right.
Like,
yep.
Stop.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Yeah.
Mania is where you're just, sometimes it exhibits in like high energy, where you're just go, get stuff done, driven by anxiety, like, and sometimes it exhibits itself in like risk taking.
Yeah.
It can look in a variety of different ways, but what fundamentally is happening in somebody who has bipolar disorder is you have a pendulum and it's swinging from one side to the other. And it can happen in a matter of minutes. It can happen in a matter of weeks. It can happen in a matter of years. It's not one size fits all. And there are some people, and there's some forms of bipolar disorder that happen with the change of the season. And that also happen with as the sun comes up and goes back down.
Yeah, well, I do know a lot of mental health challenges revolving around depression and its variants happen around darkness.
Yeah.
Like apparently one of the most depressing places in the world to live is in Alaska 6 months out of the year.
Yeah.
Because it's like dark majority of the time.
Well, and having lived, don't make fun of me.
I'm not.
Having lived in Belgium, the suicide rate there is insanely high.
Yeah.
Because it rains like 70 to 85% of the year. Like,
well, and isn't there like certain seasons of the year where it's like dark at like 4:30?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, incredibly weird.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Coming from here, like that's just not normal. But yeah, no, it's dark a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And it's rainy and it's just depressing.
Well, and there's a reason that our personification of evil, we call it darkness.
Yeah.
Because it goes hand in hand. Like, darkness is not what's most desirable for healthy people. And
so this is where you were going earlier by calling bipolar disorder when I was explaining the difference between DID and bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
And you said like kind of like schizophrenia.
Yeah.
Bipolar disorder, if untreated and severe enough, can lead to psychosis.
Oh, okay.
In really extreme cases.
So the Jim Carrey movie, Me, Myself, and Irene. Have you seen that?
No.
Oh. He has some kind of multiple personality disorder.
Dissociative identity.
Sure. Yeah, sorry. I don't know exactly what it is, but he has me, myself, and Irene.
Yeah. That is a different thing, but
Okay.
sometimes it can lead to psychosis, not necessarily DID.
Got you.
Right.
Okay.
It can lead to hallucinations and
Got you.
delusions and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
And that's really extreme,
Okay.
really extreme cases. Okay, so I already touched on that actually. To be diagnosed, you have to have some manic episode. Because other than that, like if you don't have a manic episode, it's just depression.
So what's classified as a manic episode?
All the things I just talked about.
Okay.
It varies,
Okay.
right? From person to person, it can look like different things. But as long as there's that pendulum swing
Okay.
at some point, and then the pendulum swings back, right?
All of that, the swing and the coming back, is considered a manic episode.
Well, the going and then the back.
Yeah. The
Right.
going and the coming one time.
That could be classified as a manic episode.
Got it. Okay.
Whether it happens in an hour or whether it happens over 6 months, right? That's a manic episode.
Okay. Got it.
So, and this is not super scientific. Like I do want to throw that out there. There is a lot of there's a lot of pieces just because of the time constraint that I'm skipping over.
Yeah.
But essentially that's what's happening.
Okay.
So, as you could guess, if you're constantly swinging on this pendulum, just back and forth between depressed and mania, as you would think, it increases risk of suicide.
Well, yeah, you lose yourself in that constant change. It's chaos.
Your life is constant chaos.
The way that I talk about change is that consistent change is good.
Yeah.
For instance, time. Time is consistently changing.
Yep.
Constant change is chaos. Think about hurricanes and natural disasters, tsunamis. Like, constant change is chaos. So if you're on this roller coaster of this pendulum swing back and forth, yeah, it makes sense that you would like feel suicidal.
You just want this to stop.
Yeah.
So increased risk of suicide. In 25% are completed.
Wow, that's really high.
It is. And so also with that, non-suicidal self-injury is also a risk.
Yeah.
I think that comes with the more depression piece.
Yeah.
But this actually surprised me. I didn't know this until I was outlining this episode. 2.8% of U.S. adults experience bipolar disorder.
2.8% of U.S. adults experience bipolar disorder. So 330 million adult Americans, and 2.8% of them.
It's a lot.
Yikes. Yeah.
It's a lot of people that experience bipolar disorder.
If it's over 10 million people.
Yeah.
Wow.
You probably know more than you think that actually experience bipolar disorder. And some of them are probably undiagnosed.
Yeah.
Which is even scarier to me because the stigma around bipolar disorder and around mental health challenges in general is still there, right? And so a lot of people go undiagnosed.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to go to a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Because if I go, I'm then that crazy person that goes to a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And then people will ask me if I have a manic episode. People are going to ask me, "Are you off your meds?"
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
all of those things are still there. And so people go undiagnosed. So if I had to guess, that number's higher.
Mm.
All of the numbers that I give you about diagnoses, I would suggest are higher.
Yeah. And arguably significantly higher.
Yeah. Because
of the stigma and people not going to get help. And
40% of people today, and we looked at this stat, what was it, a few weeks ago? 40% of people feel stigma around mental health challenges. Remember that? It was a little bit more than 40%. It was something like that. But
yeah, so simple math would say that you could give at a conservative number 40% increase to that number.
Yep. A very basic math. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you got 2.8% people, that number is more than likely going to be closer to 5%.
Yep. It's very simple math. It's probably there needs to be a huge error margin on that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Still, this number is almost guaranteeably higher. So signs and symptoms really quickly. Actually, I don't think I need to do signs and symptoms. We talked about, the difference between manic and depressive states.
Yeah.
We talked about depression and signs of depression.
Yeah.
Manic states are simply just what we've talked about, right?
Yeah.
It can look like a variety of different things. Sometimes it might look healthy.
Yeah.
Right? Like they're coming out of a state of depression and then like they walk out of their bedroom after being in there for 3 days and see that the house is a mess. Clean. Right? Just rapidly clean.
Yeah.
So there's that. It can look like a variety of different things. Now, causes. This is something that we haven't talked about a lot because lots of times it's trauma, right? And that is true here too. Trauma can impact and create bipolar disorder, as well as major depressive disorder, anxiety disorders, and those sorts of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is the first one that we've come to that it doesn't have to come from trauma.
Okay.
It can come from complications at birth or during pregnancies.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Is it genetic? Or can it be?
Can be.
Huh. I did not know that.
Yep. Sometimes it can be genetic. And it can come from injuries or complications during pregnancy or at birth. And so lots of times what happens is during these injuries or complications, mom's brain and hormones go out of whack, right? Because they're already out of whack because she's pregnant, right? They go even further out of whack and impact genetically the baby's chemical balance as well. And so what ends up happening there is sometimes indefinitely creating bipolar disorder.
You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of John chapter 9 when the Pharisees come to Jesus and they say, hey, who sinned that this man might be born blind?
No one.
He says, no one.
No.
Like, no one. This is no one's fault. There's such a stigma around mental health and things like, this is not your fault.
Yeah.
Like there are things that happen to each of us that are outside of our control that affect our mind. They affect our attachments. They affect the way our neurons fire and what we make up about our reality. None of this is your fault.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't know if we talked about this last week on the, not last week, week before on the post-traumatic stress video or episode. But there's a story of this guy who has PTSD. I've met him once. Cool dude. He was given a talk at a church here in Houston. Really cool dude. But he had PTSD.
Is he is he a veteran or
Nope.
PTSD from something else?
Well, I'm getting there.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
It was actually genetic.
Oh.
His mom was alive during the Korean War.
Hmm.
And she was Korean and pregnant with him.
Oh.
And her and a bunch of other people were hiding in this cave with bombs going off all around them. Hearing gunshots and just a tense kind of war scene happening around her while she's hiding in this cave. It gave her PTSD. And while she was pregnant with him, and her chemical imbalance happening in that moment created it for him too. And he didn't understand. He's just like, there's something so intense going on whenever I hear loud noises or I'm in crowded rooms or something like that. Just intense anxiety and stress. And he's like, I need to figure this out. And so he went and he got therapy. He was referred out to a neurologist. They did a brain scan and said, you know what? You have PTSD.
Wow.
And he's like, dude, I can't. Like, I've never experienced like extreme trauma like that. And he said, well, what about your mom? And that conversation happened.
Wow.
We have our parents, and genetically your mom can pass these sorts of things down. And so lots of times, like you were saying, it's not your fault. It's no one's fault. Sometimes it's just how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah.
And what you have to remember is that God loves you. He's there for you. And that you can come to him and lament. And you can come to him for restoration. And as with all of these other episodes, if you are struggling with bipolar disorder and you want help or you think you might be struggling with bipolar disorder, reach out. We can help you. We can connect you with the people that you need to talk to. Or if you just want to talk, if you want to vent, if you need to get something off your chest, DM me or Cullen on Instagram. Our social links are in the description. If you just need to talk, we're here.